Welcome to Relationship Psychology, the place where we dive deep into the real dynamics of love, connection, and understanding between men and women. You've heard it over and over again. Communication is the key to a successful relationship. Lately, some experts are shifting the conversation, saying, "No, it's not just communication, it's comprehension that truly matters." But if you ask me, it's not an either-or situation. It's both, and so much more. Effective communication, deep comprehension, emotional connection, mutual respect, all of these elements are absolutely essential if you want your relationship to not just survive, but truly thrive and become something extraordinary. Without them, things can fall apart quickly. One of the most common struggles I hear from women all the time is how challenging it can be to communicate with the man in their life. Whether you're in the early stages of dating, deeply committed in a long-term partnership, engaged, or married for years, poor communication shows up everywhere. When there's a lack of open, healthy dialogue, it creates a ripple effect. Constant misunderstandings that leave both people frustrated, avoidable mistakes that build resentment over time, rising tension that poisons the atmosphere at home, arguments that seem to come out of nowhere, and sometimes even the slow erosion of what could have been an incredible love story. A promising connection that had so much potential can fizzle out or turn toxic simply because the words, feelings, and needs aren't being expressed or received properly. That's why we can't just say communicate more and leave it at that. Everyone knows communication matters, but the real game changer is learning how to do it in ways that are healthy, effective, and tailored to how men and women often process things differently. Men and women aren't always wired the same when it comes to expressing emotions, listening, or resolving conflict. Ignoring those differences leads to more frustration, but embracing them and adapting your approach can open the door to real understanding, deeper intimacy, and lasting progress. So today, on Relationship Psychology, I'm going to share some powerful, transformative tips that will completely change how you communicate with a man. These strategies are universal. They can improve conversations with anyone. But we're focusing specifically on romantic relationships with men, because that's where so many women need the most guidance. Let's start with one of the most underrated yet incredibly effective tools I recommend to almost every woman I coach: writing letters. I usually save this tip for later in my advice, but honestly, it's so impactful that I want to put it front and center right from the beginning. Over the past 16+ years of coaching thousands of individuals and couples from all walks of life, I've seen time and time again that trying to verbally unpack deep emotions, serious concerns, or layered frustrations often doesn't land the way we hope. It's rarely because the man is completely unwilling to engage. More often, it's because real-time conversations come with so many obstacles. Distractions pop up easily, defenses rise quickly, important details get overlooked or forgotten in the heat of the moment, and emotions can escalate without anyone meaning for them to. Even when you manage to cover part of the issue, it rarely feels fully resolved for the woman. She might still have more on her heart that didn't come out, while many men operate differently. Once the conversation ends, they mentally close the chapter and want to move forward, thinking, "Okay, we talked about it, it's done." But for her, it can feel like, "Wait, there's still so much I need him to understand." This mismatch leads to the same issues resurfacing again and again, creating cycles of frustration. This is where a heartfelt letter becomes pure gold. When you take the time to write everything down, you give yourself the gift of space and clarity. You can organize your thoughts completely, pour out every single feeling and example without interruption, revisit and refine your words until they perfectly capture what you mean and ensure that not a single important point is left out. There's no rushing, no arguing in circles, no dragging the pain out over multiple days or weeks. You get to control and soften your tone so it comes across as loving rather than accusatory. Most importantly, when someone is listening to you speak, their brain is often preparing a response or rebuttal. They're listening to react. But when they're reading your words quietly on a page or screen, they're reading to absorb, reflect, process, and truly understand. It hits deeper. It lingers longer. They can reread passages that resonate or challenge them, sit with the message at their own pace, and let it sink in without pressure. Once they've had time to digest everything, you can then have a follow-up verbal conversation that's calmer, more productive, and built on the solid foundation of your letter. I've worked with so many couples who were stuck in toxic communication patterns, and introducing letter writing turned things around dramatically. They reported feeling heard for the first time in years, experiencing breakthroughs they never thought possible, and rebuilding trust step by step. Of course, you don't need to write a letter for every tiny disagreement or daily check-in. Those can stay verbal. But for the bigger, more emotional, more detailed conversations, the ones that really matter, this method is unbeatable. Some women hesitate and ask, but what if he just ignores the letter and doesn't read it? In the vast majority of cases, especially when it comes from someone they care about, people do read it. Curiosity, love, or even concern usually wins. There are always rare exceptions, but if a partner repeatedly refuses even to read a sincere attempt at communication, that's a massive red flag indicating deeper unwillingness to invest in the relationship. At that point, bigger questions need to be asked. But please don't assume that will happen. Try it first. You'll likely be amazed at how much more clearly he grasps your heart and perspective, leading to genuine progress and closeness you didn't think was possible. Moving on to another absolutely crucial tip, always be extremely specific about what you need and want. Vague requests almost always lead to disappointment because men tend to process instructions literally and practically. Let me illustrate this with a story I've shared before because it's such a perfect example. I was coaching a married couple where the wife felt completely neglected. She told me, "He never spends quality time with me. He doesn't even watch TV with me anymore." I relayed that to the husband, and he took it seriously. "Got it. I'll make sure we watch TV together." A week later, she was still miserable. When I asked him what changed, he said, "I've been watching TV with her every evening. What more does she want?" Turns out they were sitting on opposite ends of the couch, barely interacting. To him, being in the same room checking off "watch TV together" fixed the issue. To her, what she really craved was physical closeness, affection, eye contact, conversation, true emotional intimacy, not just parallel screen time. This happens constantly. In dating, a woman might say, "You don't call me enough. I need more communication." If they were talking twice a week, he might increase it to 4 times and genuinely believe he's stepped up big time. But if what she truly needs to feel secure and connected is daily contact, 4 times still leaves her feeling distant and unimportant. Again, he thinks he delivered more, but it wasn't the specific more that would actually meet her needs. I know what some of you are thinking right now. Why do I have to spell everything out like he's a child? A real man should just know. I totally get that frustration. It can feel exhausting and unfair. But here's the reality. Men aren't mind readers, and sometimes their hesitation isn't lack of care. It could be caution from past experiences where daily calls or constant affection were labeled clingy, needy, or too much. He might be trying to play it cool, pace things appropriately, or avoid repeating mistakes that cost him previous relationships. When you're crystal clear, "If we're building something serious, hearing from you every day would make me feel valued and excited," you remove all guesswork. If he's truly into you, he'll happily adjust. If not, at least you know sooner. Preferences vary wildly from person to person. Some women hate constant texting and see it as low effort. Others see it as thoughtful and essential. He can't possibly know your unique love language unless you guide him. Being specific doesn't make you high maintenance. It makes you smart. It ensures that when he makes an effort, that effort actually lands and strengthens the bond instead of falling short and breeding resentment. Another game-changing tip is to always be deeply mindful of your energy, tone, and overall vibe when you communicate. I know this one can trigger some women. I've heard it many times. Why do I have to walk on eggshells? Why are men so fragile? Why is the burden always on me to manage how I come across? Those feelings are valid, and I understand where they come from completely. It can absolutely feel unfair, especially when you're already carrying so much emotionally. But here's the choice we all face. Do we cling to pride and being right about how things should be, or do we choose progress and the healthier, happier relationship we actually want? You don't have to change a thing. You're free to communicate exactly as you feel in the moment. But if you want different results, small adjustments in approach can create massive shifts. Even when your words are technically calm and correct, your underlying energy can scream attack, judgment, sarcasm, or passive aggression. We've all been on the receiving end, someone speaking in a perfectly polite voice while their eyes, posture, and vibe radiate hostility. It drives you crazy when they insist, "I'm not yelling, I'm just talking," because you feel the truth underneath. The same principle applies when you're the one speaking. If a man senses, even subconsciously, that he's being attacked or criticized, his walls go up instantly. Defense mode kicks in for everyone, no exceptions. To create real openness and safety, approach from a place of love, calmness, and genuine desire for understanding, even when the topic is difficult or painful. Practical ways to get your energy right. Pause and take several deep breaths before starting. Say a quick prayer or affirmation to center yourself. Remind yourself that your goal is connection and clarity, not winning or forcing an outcome, and release attachment to how he must respond. If the conversation leads to positive change, amazing. If it reveals deeper incompatibility, that clarity is also a gift. Either way, you stay grounded. And please, if you're already having a terrible day, if work stressed you out, traffic was awful, or someone else upset you, that's probably not the moment to unload heavy relationship concerns. Your energy will be off, and it'll color everything. Vent about your bad day if you need comfort, but save the deeper issues for when you're in a clearer, more positive space. Next, avoid assuming the worst and projecting your past pain onto the present situation. This is one of the biggest silent killers of good communication. So many conversations derail before they even start because one person walks in with their conclusion already drawn, usually a negative one. You ask, "Why didn't you do what I asked?" But in your mind, you've already decided it's because he doesn't care, doesn't respect you, or is taking you for granted. With that mindset, you're not truly open to hearing his actual reason. Maybe he forgot because he had a crisis at work, or misunderstood the request, or a million other innocent explanations. When you enter closed off, you block any chance of understanding, empathy, or resolution. Projection is even more damaging. Telling him who he is, what his motives are, or why he behaves a certain way based on your ex or past trauma, rather than the reality in front of you. It feels like a trial where he's already guilty, and nothing he says will change the verdict. That shuts him down completely and makes him feel hopeless about ever being seen accurately. Much of this stems from unhealed wounds, past betrayals, abandonments, or heartbreaks that make us hyper-vigilant and quick to assume malice. True healing is non-negotiable for healthy communication. It frees you to see the person in front of you clearly instead of through a distorted lens. Timing is another make-or-break factor that's often overlooked. Beyond waiting until you're personally calm, consider whether he's in the right headspace too. Sometimes we get so wrapped up in our own emotions, a totally human thing, that we become temporarily emotionally selfish, blind to his current state. Is he stressed from work, exhausted, dealing with his own issues? Bombarding him when he's already overwhelmed rarely goes well. Look for natural windows when he seems relaxed, present, and receptive. Even couples going through rough patches have moments of lightness. Use those wisely without fear of ruining the mood. The most structured and effective solution? Create regular scheduled relationship check-ins. Agree together on a recurring time, maybe weekly at first if things are rocky, then stretch to bi-weekly or monthly as harmony grows, dedicated solely to open, honest dialogue. Put it on the calendar like any important appointment. This prevents small issues from snowballing, gives both of you time to prepare mentally, and builds a safe routine for communication. When conflicts happen frequently, weekly check-ins keep everything manageable. As things smooth out, you can space them further apart. Always, without exception, remain respectful. Respect ranks at the very top of what most men need to feel loved and secure in a relationship. Disrespect, whether it's sharp-toned criticism, insults, name-calling, eye-rolling, public humiliation, or speaking down to him, destroys trust, emasculates, and creates distance faster than almost anything else. Have proactive conversations early and ongoing about what specifically makes him feel disrespected, because every man's triggers are different. Understanding his boundaries lets you navigate them lovingly and avoid accidental landmines. Finally, make sure you genuinely let him speak, and truly listen without interruption or immediate rebuttal. In our passion to express our own hurt or needs, it's easy to dominate the conversation, dismiss his feelings, or refuse any accountability. Many men eventually stop trying because they feel, "She doesn't actually want to hear me, she just wants to vent." Create real space for his perspective. Practice putting yourself fully in his shoes. The more you validate and seek to understand him, the more safe he'll feel doing the same for you. If you tend to get carried away in the moment, agree beforehand on a gentle signal he can use. Hey, can I share my side now? So you can pause and give him the floor. Thank you so much for spending this time with Relationship Psychology. I genuinely pray these expanded insights empower you to build the deep, fulfilling connection you deserve. If any tip especially resonated or you've tried one with success, please drop a comment below. I read them all and love hearing your stories. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss the practical, life-changing guidance we share here every week. You've got this. Stronger communication starts today.